I'm Broken Too, a Shigaraki X-Reader X Dabi by Kikyo851. Chapter 1. This is supposed to be our new recruit? She looks so weak. That smile on her face is a little unsettling too. Well, I think she's pretty. Such were the words headed your way as you faced your current audience. The dim lighting in the bar was spotty and weak, but it was more than enough to illuminate the faces that stood before you, each more jarring than the last. There was a bubbly blonde with her hair done in messy buns and a fanged grin. A man with ebony hair that sported patches of purple, wrinkled skin held together by crude stitches. But the most striking appearance, by far, undeniably, belonged to the slender man seated at the bar. His expression was almost completely veiled by a collection of artificial hands, save for the small openings that revealed his red, beady eyes. It was an uncomfortable situation, to say the least. If the older gentleman hanging by your side hadn't prodded you by the back, you doubted you'd have been able to say anything at all. "Come on," Jiren urged. "There's no one here who can read minds. They're not going to know what to think unless you introduce yourself." You nodded slowly, still keeping a forced smile on your lips. "Right. Well then, My reason for wanting to join the League of Villains isn't anything special, but if I had to pick one, I guess it just seemed like a good place to start." You already knew that the leader was the lanky, silver-haired male that was seated cross-legged at the bar. You'd done your research beforehand, but Jiren had also mentioned that the man named Shigaraki was a particularly hard customer to deal with. Most likely he had told you this in order to prepare you. As you watched him stand up from the stool to tower over your comparatively small frame, you didn't think that anything could have possibly prepared you for this interaction. A good place to start what? Shigaraki's voice was thin and raspy. You immediately likened it to the sound you would get from rubbing sandpaper against a wall. You were sure that most people would categorize this as creepy or sinister, yourself included, but you were more focused on the malicious look in his eyes as the man approached. "A good place to start off being a villain," you explained. "I've had a few experiences in this line of business, but nothing concrete as of yet. I figured that as well known as this group is, it would give me a lot of opportunities to do things. And my other source of motivation would be, well, the fact that I'm kind of broke." "So you're here for the money," Shigaraki stated flatly, a hint of accusation in his tone. You forced another smile. Kinda? Like I said before, I'm not exactly a veteran or anything when it comes to this stuff. I'm still trying to get settled into the role." The blonde girl began bouncing up and down on her seat before Shigaraki could reply. "I like her," she exclaimed. "She's so cute, and I'd really like to have another girl in the group." Shigaraki's eyes narrowed. "Nobody asked for your input. I'm the one in charge here." He redirected his gaze back towards you, voice dripping with contempt. "What's some happy-go-lucky ditz like you doing here anyways? That constant smile on your face is almost as weird as Toga's, and we don't need another crazy person up in here." "I'm Toga, by the way," the girl chimed in. "Shut up already." The man continued to stare at you with that same glassy look in his eye. "So, what's your deal? You come in here telling us that you barely know how to be a damn villain, and all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that you want to join us? Reeks of bullshit if you ask me." You lowered your head. "I guess it must seem pretty suspicious, but I'm not plotting anything, I swear. I just honestly didn't know where else to start. Taking odd jobs and stuff on my own has gotten really difficult, and I felt like being under the guise of an alliance would be better. It's less scary than being all alone." "You're scared?" Shigaraki repeated, as if he could hardly believe what he'd heard. A weak cackle soon escaped his lips. "Wow, that's really something. I've never come across someone asking to join us who openly admitted to being afraid of the work. Usually when you apply for a job, you don't lead with the fact that you don't have any of the right skills." Sorry." He clicked his tongue, glaring back at Jiren in disapproval. "Oi, what gives, old man? The hell are you bringing me this weak-ass maggot for? She doesn't seem like she'd be of use to anyone." "On the contrary," Jiren objected. "I think you'll find that her quirk is quite powerful. She's also cooperative to a fault and gets the job done cleanly and efficiently." Shigaraki gave you another dead-eyed stare. "I highly doubt that." "Well, just take a look and see for yourself. Come on. Give them a glimpse of what they're working with here." You nodded in agreement, raising your right arm and briefly stretching out your fingers. All eyes fell to your now immobile hand, which was slowly becoming imbued with a pale yellow light. You began to hobble forward, and Shigaraki's brows furrowed together in response. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he demanded. "Get the fuck away from me before things get ugly." You smiled reassuringly. "No, don't worry. I'm not going to use my powers on anyone. If I could just... Do you mind stepping aside so that I can get to that stool?" Shigaraki apparently didn't take too kindly to being ordered around, but Jiren shook his hand and signaled that everything was alright. Now that you had full access to the stool, you pulled it towards you and let it rest in place for a few moments. With a sharp inhale, you straightened your right palm out, orienting it sideways as if it were a blade. Seconds later, your hand descended upon the stool and sliced it clean down the middle. One half toppled clumsily to the side through the pressure of the blow. Meanwhile, Toga let out a cry of delight. "Wow, did you see that? Did you see? She sliced it right into two. It's like she had a sword for an arm. It was such a pretty cut, just like Stain-sama's." "Just shut the hell up," Shigaraki spat, glowering at his underling until she shuffled off to the side and forced herself to stay quiet. His glare fell back onto you. "So, that's your quirk then? You've basically got some portable weapon on you at all times?" You nibbled at your bottom lip. "It's a bit different than that. It certainly does appear close-ranged, but the size of the light surrounding my arm determines how big the slicing radius is. Right now the light's also colored yellow, which is why it was weaker than usual." "What difference does the color make?" "The light imbuing your fingers slowly died down as you released your quirk. Depending on my mood, the light is a different color," you explained. "And these colors kind of have to do with how powerful my quirk is. If it's red, it's more violent and harder to repress than usual. A red color corresponds to anger, passion. Blue would be easier to control, but less powerful, corresponding to sadness or calmness." Shigaraki impatiently tapped his heel against the floorboard. "So, what's yellow mean then?" You awkwardly scratched at the back of your head, offering a small smile. "It could be happiness, but on this occasion, it'd probably be caution or fear." Toga bobbed her head forward. You don't need to be scared of us. We won't hurt you, but I am a little curious to see how you bleed." "How many times have I told you to shut up by now, Toga?" She pursed her lips. 3 times?" "You're so damn..." Shigaraki let out a grunt of annoyance, beginning to claw at the base of his neck in frustration. "Alright, so?" he challenged, returning his glower onto you. "You can't even fully control the way your power works, is what you're telling me. In that case, why the hell would I want to recruit someone like you? Your quirk is unreliable at best. I don't need some joke member who hardly even considers themselves a villain." You felt your chest tighten. The air was noticeably thicker than before. Whether it was from Shigaraki's cold glare or your overall discomfort, you weren't sure. The only thing you were sure of was that you wanted this to work. You wanted to join their alliance. You wanted to feel like you had a place somewhere, somehow. "There's another component to my quirk," you mumbled softly. Shigaraki's eyebrows raised ever so slightly, and you thought you noticed the base of his jaw clench as you stepped closer to him. It wasn't that he was scared, but it was clear that he didn't want people getting too close. "Step back," he ordered. "Step back right now." "If I could just..." "I told you to step back." You barely had time to process what was happening, but you fortunately managed to catch a glimpse of his hand reaching over to push you back by the shoulder. You squeezed your eyes shut in a hurry, tumbling clumsily down to the ground. When your eyes fluttered open, you saw Shigaraki staring down at you with an expression of both bewilderment and horror. He shakily lifted his hand to point down at you. How the hell is your shoulder still intact? I'm positive all 5 of my fingers touched you. Your fingers gently caressed the area where he'd assaulted your shoulder. There was a bit of soreness from the force alone, but he was correct. None of your skin had begun decaying away. The same faint yellow light from before clung to your body as you looked up at him from underneath your lashes. It's my quirk.